From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie The Devil's Advocate, released in 1997. Starring Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino, and Charlize Theron. Directed by Taylor Hackford. The synopsis is: Kevin Lomax is a talented defense attorney who wins the toughest cases for the slimiest criminals in the world. He is actively pursued by a law firm owner, John Milton, who happens to be the devil and also his dad. The story. This is an adaptation of a 1990 novel by Andrew Niederman, which he successfully pitched to Warner Brothers as a film about a law firm in New York that represents only guilty people and never loses. That premise alone is pretty intriguing, with endless options of exciting stories, and maybe that's partly the reason why it took 6 years for the film to get produced, with several actors in the running to play in the film. The screenplay was written by Jonathan Lemkin and Tony Gilroy, with changes from the director, Taylor Hackford, and even at one point, Al Pacino. Taylor Hackford said it was a modern-day morality play, or what you would call a Faustian tale, with a focus on humanity's free will. He also drew inspiration from films like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen. As much as it is a tale pulling from famous classic poems about hell, such as Dante's Inferno from the Divine Comedy and in the 14th century, and John Milton's Paradise Lost from the 17th century. The film is a social commentary about the modern age of the justice system and how it could be used as a tool to allow criminals to go free, playing upon the vanity and the greed of crooked law practices. Whether you agree with the film's take on the profession of law or not, I think it was a fantastic industry to explore for this concept because of the intense struggle with ethics that lawyers confront on an everyday basis. As well, the main message of the film is that evil exists in many forms, as the Inferno's 9 circles of hell and 7 deadly sins. The film shows you all of them represented in its characters and focuses on greed and vanity, or other words, pride. Perhaps because it doesn't necessarily lead to causing harm upon others, but the film shows you how it definitely can. The premise and dialogue are definitely conversation worthy, provocative, and the highlight of the film. The pacing at 2 hours and 24 minutes is way too long. There are several scenes and characters, tonal shifts, and segments that could have been completely cut out of the film and not really change the outcome. But if you're a fan of the film, you don't want to miss a moment of this movie, even the parts that go so insane that it boggles the mind. The challenge. The biggest challenge in the film is John Milton, appropriately named after the author of Paradise Lost, a poem about man's fall from God's grace. John Milton is the owner of a snazzy New York law firm with the world's richest, most unscrupulous clientele. If you didn't know from the movie trailer, poster, and title, John Milton is the devil in this film. He ultimately wants to get his son, Kevin Lomax, and his daughter, Christabella Andreoli, to incestuously breed the Antichrist so he can bring hell upon earth. John Milton provides lots of meaty dialogue and is definitely where the film really has its most ridiculous antics, and I love it completely. Wow, it's just so much fun to listen to his many ranting monologues. It was intentionally written for the amusement of the audience. And even though he is the villain, he's still a likable character, and he acts as the audience's guide to explain what's actually happening, so we could try to piece together some kind of story here. His monologues are like the magical incantations to suggest the things that are happening. He doesn't actually do anything directly. He just influences humanity to kind of indulge in sin using their free will. Now on to Christabella. Christabella is the key to Milton's master plan, but we don't get to know much about her except that she seems to be ready to do whatever it is that he wants her to do in the scenery. She is kind of like a henchwoman in a way, set up to be part of Kevin's temptation, and she's doing a great job of it as well. But we don't know anything about her background or her motivation besides being the personification of lust. We have the violent, greedy, and treacherous Alex Cullen, an ultra-rich billionaire client of the law firm who has horribly killed his maid, wife, and stepson in order to follow his lustful relationship with his underage stepdaughter. Yuck, disgusting. He is the perfect example of where the film displays man's sins, and he couldn't be more of a villain on his own, often stealing the scenes that he's in. He's very cringeworthy. Then there is Eddie Barzoon, the sniveling viper who is the firm's managing partner. His downfall really comes from being envious of Kevin after seeing how Milton puts him above all others, and he discovers that Kevin's name is on the firm's charter. He's so greedy that he's willing to bite the hand that feeds him and threatens to inform the United States Attorney's Office of the law firm's fraudulency in his wrath. Now, the empathy. The film starts out with Kevin discovering that the man that he is representing on trial is actually a pedophile. But he goes into the bathroom where he emerges, and he makes a decision to destroy the credibility of the victim and wins the case for the pedophile. He's cocky and consumed by vanity and ambition. Winning his courtroom cases is all he cares about. And once he is offered a job to work for Milton, Milton uses his weakness to his advantage. In many ways, Kevin is just like the audience being taken for the ride. He doesn't upstage his surroundings because he's a fish out of water, learning the ropes. Milton sets up temptations to lead Kevin down the path of corruption. You can see that he is slowly being influenced by the temptations as he picks up the habit of smoking he once quit before. And we see him become fond of wearing darker suits to subtly indicate his internal darkening. The film plays upon Kevin being amused by all of these temptations, but he doesn't act on them readily because his marriage still keeps him grounded. At first, it all seems to be part of the couple's ambitious plan. She is a willing accomplice and convinces Kevin to stay when he gets hints that something strange is happening near the beginning of the film. She is also very attracted to Milton and is seduced by the glamorous life. However, unbeknownst to Kevin, Mary Ann is being tortured by this new world, being told that her hair is wrong, her choices are wrong, and she's being intimidated on a daily basis and feels inferior that she comes from a very small town. Those are some pretty standard challenges for most people. What's especially terrible is that she begins to see her new friends morph into monsters. She also hallucinates and she discovers that she cannot have children. That may be the straw that breaks the camel's back here. It really drives her insane to the point that she is ultimately committed. It's pretty devastating what happens to her, but what her character is able to do within the story is provide more answers to what is going on. In many ways, she reminds me of Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth from the play Macbeth, depicting the repentant sinner, horrified and even driven insane with guilt. Mary Ann tries to explain that the experience that they are going through is actually turning them into monsters, letting criminals get away with hurting people and doing unscrupulous deeds in order to get ahead. She also calls the experience a test of some kind, and she's completely right. It all has to do with placing the temptations in front of them and allowing them to make their own choices. It's the free will factor that Milton wants the characters to experience. In the beginning of the film, Kevin puts his wedding ring on the counter to wash his hands in the bathroom, foreshadowing his eventual lack of attention to his marriage, and destroys their unique bond. His vanity for being a winner is more powerful than his love for Mary Ann. The film uses mirrors as a way to show us when our main characters are making decisions to choose their destiny. In the beginning of the film, Kevin, after discovering that his client is a pedophile, looks into the mirror in the bathroom and he's getting a suggestion from a character that is later to be revealed as John Milton. He's posing as a news reporter in that particular scene. In the mirror, you can see that there are two reflections indicating two paths that Kevin can take. When he makes his decision, you can see that his final reflection is distorted in the mirror, transforming him into a kind of monster. You can see this mirror play again when Mary Ann is getting suggestions to cut her hair from Milton. They're both looking into a mirror and the reflection is very distorted, indicating that his influences is actually changing her. It's a visual, subtle storytelling effect. The suggestion is there from Milton, but the decisions were theirs to make. Now the technical aspects. The technical aspects of this film is not bad. There were interesting transitions, great lighting, sets, location. It's a really good looking film. The 90s computer morphing demon faces were very dated. They could be creepy to most people, but I have to say that they made me laugh a lot. There were lots of 90s jump scares and some suspenseful tension woven into the scenes. At the end of the film, Milton morphs into Lucifer in the form of the fallen angel. The effect was created by combining masks from molds from Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, as well as a much earlier mask from The Godfather in 1972. given to the special effects department from makeup artist Dick Smith. It was truly one of those really outrageous effects that really intrigued me a lot. I mean, I didn't even realize until seeing that scene how much the two actors really looked alike, making it more believable that they would be related. A few minutes prior to that morphing scene, there is a wonderful living mural behind John Milton going on as he rants. The effect was actually achieved by taking shots of ballerinas placed in a tank next to a blue screen. Filming that sequence spanned 3 months before adding the computer effects, costing $2 million. That was 40% of the overall budget for special effects. Though it was an incredibly memorable and gorgeous effect, I'm not sure it was really worth the price tag. However, I do understand that when it comes to special effects, the production can run into a few snags in the effort to be innovative, and for the time, I believe it was. However, it would cost the studio even more money yet, as the still version of the mural was a replica of a real-life sculpture by Frederick Hart at the Episcopal National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. called Ex Nihilo. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Please forgive me. Hart and the church sued Warner Brothers just after the film's release. The scene was meant to be a modern version of Paradise Lost's downfall of the rebel angels, depicted by artist William Blake. I enjoyed the score quite a bit in this film by James Newton Howard, setting the mood for a very ominous situation with a hint of supernatural orchestral cues and operatics. It all has a bigger than life feel to it, and that's what I really loved about it. The performances. This is a very interesting subject matter because even Siskel and Ebert argued about this in their review of the film. I'm actually one of those people who actually enjoyed Keanu Reeves' performance in this. I know a lot of people are not a fan of his early acting abilities, but in this, I really think he's good. His character is not an instigator in this. He is learning about what's going on in the story as we are. So he needed to be reserved in his behavior, where he's kind of a student before he can really effectively be a participant. He plays Kevin Lomax with a lot of spice though, so when characters push him, he gets up in their face and he pushes back. He's holding his own while providing a platform for the other performers to tell their character's story. That's what you need here, and he delivers it perfectly. Even just looking at stills from the film, you can see the emotional range he's putting into his performance. What most people don't know about this film is that Reeves turned down $11 million. Okay, that's cold hard cash to make the sequel to Speed, released in 1994, and agreed to a huge pay cut worth millions of dollars so that the producers could meet Pacino's salary demands. He was very passionate about the project since the beginning and has commented prior about his fondness for the film. Pacino, oh gosh, Pacino is just phenomenal in this. Wow, he's just really over the top and ultra playing John Milton, and I loved every minute of it. I'm sorry, I loved every single minute of it. It's just one of those performances that you'll never forget because he's showing up the character and the film gives him so much screen time and play space to really let loose. It's just beautiful to watch. It just makes me chuckle seeing that performance. It's so good and juicy. To prepare for the role, Pacino watched the 1941 film The Devil and Daniel Webster and observed tips from Walter Huston as Mr. Scratch. And as well, he also read the classics that inspired the screenplay, Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost. Originally, Al Pacino turned down the film 5 times. And I could see why they would have wanted him to play this role, because it seemed to be perfect for him. You know, he's hammy and he's over the top, but he's a lot of fun to watch. Charlize Theron was great in my opinion playing Mary Ann, putting all of her heart into playing this traumatized housewife. She researched the role by spending some time with a psychologist specializing in the condition of schizophrenia. The symbolic meaning behind her character and what she has to endure and her message in the film, I thought she did a fantastic job. One of the surprise performances for me was Craig T. Nelson, mostly known for his television work, and played completely against type as a villainous fiend, okay? Just a nasty evildoer. There's nothing else that I could say. And he plays it so good. He steals every scene he's in. And it was so incredible to see him as such a contemptible character. It's definitely different, and he did a fantastic job. Now, the best part of the film for me, hands down, was John Milton's monologues. They were amazing. He got about 4 of them in the film, and they're all just completely astounding to witness. Lots of fun to listen to. My wish list. I really love the title of the film, The Devil's Advocate, and the story is about the legal profession, so it's very clever. But I wish we didn't know that Al Pacino's character was the devil. The movie seemed to not realize that we knew it. However, the trailer and the poster, if they didn't give it away, perhaps it would have been a nice discovery in the film. And another piece that really kind of bothered me was the sense of Mary Ann. I understood her symbolic meaning in the film. However, when she begins to feel abandoned and lonely, why didn't she just get a job to stay busy, or just go home just to get her sanity back? And you know, that's something that most people would do. It'd just be like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna fly home and I'll be back like in 2 weeks. It just seemed like her character's downward spiral was written for the convenience of the film, you know, so that way we get this eruption at the end of the film. The ending is a bit confusing because it looks like the entire events of the film was kind of a dream or a hallucination. The story has been reset in order to test Kevin once again. And I think that was really fascinating, and I think this would have been great for a TV show where you can really expound upon the many ways, like each season could be a new reset. So it kind of brings up a good question for me, is that if John Milton can turn back time, why not go back in time to a point where Kevin had not met Mary Ann? Steal him from the hospital the day of his birth and raise him as his son. How about that? Then he would have more control and more influence and all sorts of things. They missed a really awesome opportunity. Like, give us some rules and reasons why he can't do that. The enjoyment. I really, really, really like this film, though, because it really makes me laugh a lot. I know it's weird. It's not a comedy. That's the problem. This film is not a comedy, but it makes me laugh so much. And not only that, you know, the filmmakers really push the envelope with adult language and sexual scenes that can sometimes make you feel a little uncomfortable. It's a creepy film too. I won't lie, but somehow I really like it, and I think it's mainly because of Al Pacino's performance. Either you'll love it or you'll completely dislike it, but you'll feel strongly about it, and that's another key thing about it that I enjoy. I love the concepts of the story acting more of a precautionary tale for individuals to see the greed and vanity in everyday ambitions. But what it only lacks is a solution or an anecdote to give the viewers some hope. And in that lacking, I also found it to be refreshing too, that even when the characters do the right thing, it doesn't always mean that they're out of the challenge of evil. It's sort of like a never-ending challenge for Kevin. It's the never-ending challenge for humanity as well. We're always fighting the temptations in life that could lead us down the path of something more sinister. It emphasizes humanity's free will and ability to choose a better outcome. This definitely goes down as a very, very guilty pleasure. Hush your mouth. Don't you tell anybody that I like this movie, but I do. My rating is a 9. That sums up my review. I hoped you liked it. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.